let's go ahead and kick it off and get started. So nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Lucy, and I am a customer success manager here at monday.com. Our webinar today is focused on using monday.com specifically for software development teams. So I'm going to be walking you through best practices in setting up your monday.com boards to best manage your work as developers and to communicate with other teams, whether that's in your company or within the R&D function. This all can be managed really well with monday.com, so I'm excited to kind of get started. Let's start by just reviewing our agenda. These are the topics that we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk about iteration and task management, managing a workload in that agile management style. Next, we're going to talk about managing bugs and feature enhancements. That's an inherent part of all software development, so we're going to be focused on that. We're going to talk about communication within your team as well as other teams in the organization. And lastly, we'll finish up with dashboards and reporting. If after our webinar you need any additional help or support, here are some resources for you. We do run many advanced theme webinars such as this one that you can find at monday.com/webinars. We have a very extensive knowledge base, monday.com/support. We have a newly formed community, community.monday.com, and always you can email us at support@monday.com. The style of this webinar is going to start with about 35 to 40 minutes of me going through this workflow and all of the different boards, and then we're going to end with Q&A. Just as a note, at the bottom of your Zoom, there is an actual Q&A button that is different from the chat. Please put all of your questions in that section. That's what I'm going to be using for the Q&A. I do have my colleague Lisa, who will also be on the webinar helping to answer some questions as well. So definitely put those questions in the Q&A throughout, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. You will get an email after the webinar with the recording of the webinar, as well as we will be sharing the board templates on monday.com/stories if you'd like to use any of them. So no need to kind of email in asking for that. That is coming. But if we don't get to any of your kind of meaty questions, then we can definitely answer via support@monday.com. But I'm going to try to get to as many as possible. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to jump into the platform now. Here we are within our monday.com interface. Hopefully for all of you, this is very familiar looking. And I'm going to specifically start with working on an iteration and task management board in particular. Okay, so as we know, it's very common to work in an agile work style when you're working on a software development team. This is working in sprints or iterations that tend to be about 2 weeks. As we know, kind of all tasks roll up to an epic or a larger scale project. And it's important to kind of understand different story points or a time scale when you're working on these various tasks. Agile management is very collaborative and cross-departmental typically. So monday.com as this kind of work hub for managing this style of working is really effective. And I want to kind of go through this board to start as a just kind of a review of how you can use monday.com to manage your sprints or iterations, whichever you call them. And let's go ahead and dive into the structure of this board. So just to kind of level set, and we'll use this to level set for the duration of our session, we have here a board that we've titled Platform Team A, Iteration Planning. That is the main focus of this board, is to plan these 2-week sprints. Each group here is a different iteration that I've noted just by, kind of a naming convention here, particular with the dates. And this last group is a backlog. This is where all of my different items or rows are noting here a backlog of tasks that need to be completed within, the epic to get all the work done. However, it's just kind of going into a list. So the kind of workflow here is to start with items in the backlog and to pull them up into the iterations, which is really easily done using monday.com. Simply selecting one of the items, move to a different group on the board, and with just one click, it's now part of my iteration and out of my backlog. If I wanted to keep my backlog for just purposes of maintaining a list of everything we've worked on, I can always duplicate the item and then move that item up. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this top iteration group, which is what my team is kind of working on. We could say this particular sprint. And let's look at all the kind of the structure and the columns that I've added here to help manage this piece of work. As we know, iterations probably get very busy. There's a lot of different people collaborating, a lot of things to get done. And it's really important to start with number one, transparency. Who is working on what? And that is right here what this people column does. It adds increased accountability to show who's working on what, who is responsible for what, and really ensures that everybody is very clear, even if it's on a different team or a different department, or we're incorporating with a product manager or with a design manager or something else, that it's still really very clear as to who is responsible for each task here. At a base level, I have two status columns that I have gone ahead and customized the labels to just note where things stand, whether my tasks are done, waiting for deployments, upcoming, need to be moved back to the backlog, so on and so forth. If I wanted to edit these labels and further customize them, I can do so simply by clicking right here, and that's where I'm able to edit those labels further. I've also used a status column to note the priority, very clear on what is kind of urgent and most important for the team, as well as what might fall under that lower priority best effort. All right, my next column here is a numbers column. As we know, kind of working in that agile style, tracking time spent, or whether you call that story points or you like to track it in hours, is really important here. So this is what a numbers column that I've added into the board, and I've just retitled it estimation of time. For my group here, I'm focusing on hours, as well as I've set my footer to be focused on an average. So I can see on average per iteration task, we're spending about 2.6 hours. I also could see the total to know if I have more time I can put into the iteration, add those additional kind of meaty story points, or if it's something that, we might be a little bit overbooked here. This next column here is a tags column, and this is to note the epic. What's really cool about the tags column is it basically creates this consistent thread throughout the entire platform. So while we're, kind of wanting to note right now which epic each task is particularly tied to, this will transcend many different boards. For example, this epic right here is for the performance, okay? We're working on our overall board stabilization and performance, we can say. When I click on this tag, it will pull up a search everything search of every single task, whether on a different board or the same board, that contains that tag. So using the way to, using the tags column to track and to note the epics is great, because it adds in an automatic searchability function that it'll search across the entire platform. Okay. All right, and then lastly, I added in a creation log column. This notes who created the item, whether that is different from maybe the person that's actually working on it. Again, just adding in that increased accountability and transparency of who is working on what, and kind of what needs to get done here. So let's go ahead and take this board to the next level. I did just want to kind of start by reviewing the overall structure and my choice to include some of these specific columns to track different things within my sprint. But I think one thing that can be really helpful here to start with is an integration. We have many different integrations at monday.com, and we're actually working on adding in many, many more. And so please stay tuned, specifically for software teams. We have a lot of different integrations that are going to be released within the next quarter and coming months. So stay tuned here. The integration I want to add for this board is an integration with GitHub. We know that you may be using monday.com to manage your work, but other tools such as GitHub, maybe Jira, to be really tracking different elements and specifics of how you're working within your code base. We've built a native integration with GitHub where you can attach an item, or excuse me, associate an item that is on your sprint to a particular instance in GitHub. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to start by going to our integrations button on the board right here, which is this plug. And these are all of our different integrations that we have natively built. As I said, this list is definitely expanding, and we're really excited to be releasing many new apps in the coming months. But for this case, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to add in an integration, and I'll use GitHub as an example here. So by clicking on this GitHub icon, I am taken to all of the different recipes that we have. Our recipes work in a very kind of consistent way. First is the direction of the icons will show you which way the integration flows. These flow from GitHub into monday.com. This one flows from monday.com into GitHub. And all of the integration recipes use a very similar structure, which is a trigger and an action. There's a certain trigger that causes an action, whether that's an action in the board or whether that's an action in GitHub. So using this one just as an example, when an item is created in monday.com, that's my trigger, an issue in this repository. That is my action that's occurring in GitHub. When I add this to the board, I go ahead and sync my GitHub account. And now I can go ahead and customize using my GitHub account this particular integration. So when an item is created in the board, fairly straightforward, I will need my action, which is to create an issue in the repository. Well, which repository within my GitHub account do I want it to flow into? Maybe for this example, I'll choose this one, new project, and I'll update the integration. Okay, I can see now that I have one active integration as well as an additional column on my board that accounts for my GitHub issue. This is going to work automatically without any kind of work on my end. It's just when I create a new item that will automatically create an issue within my GitHub account, which you can see was done very seamlessly here. And now within my board, I have a link to that as well. Okay, this works for many of our apps. I'm just showing GitHub as an example. The structure is very similar whether you are using Jira or another tool. We do have an integration with GitLab being released soon. So definitely stay tuned and take your board to the next level by building in these integrations as well to create that connectivity. Next on this board, I want to talk about how to maybe personalize this a bit. This board has a bit of a wide scope. This is for the entire platform team that I'm a part of in this kind of example. And let's say I really want to take this down and drill down to what am I particularly responsible for, and how can I see that? So there's always the ability to search simply by yourself, selecting yourself and kind of getting that searchability of understanding what you're assigned to. But the other idea I had here was to go and use the Kanban style view. By clicking on the drop down of the main table, adding a view, these are all of our different board views. They basically take the data on your board and they turn them into a different kind of interface, a different style view. For this purposes, I'm going to be using Kanban here. Okay, so you can see now that my board has transformed, all of the data maintaining within it, but now is working within that Kanban style. And here I can kind of create this personal to-do list. I have all of the items in my board, but I still have this searchability and filter function. So let's say I wanted to just see everything that my colleague Hermione was associated with here. I can see the statuses of what she's working on. If I click on one particular card, it'll pop out the item so I can see additional information from that item, including that integration we just built here, different statuses, estimation of time, really all the information is right there. But that way, when she comes in, she's able to just go to this style view, search by herself, and now she has this personal to-do list. She knows what's waiting for review, what's waiting for deployment, what is finished, and it looks like she doesn't have anything she's working on, so we can add some more to her plate there. So by using this full board view, you're really able to take your board and your to-dos to the next level here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next section, which is talking about managing bugs. So if you do have any questions from this kind of first section, please go ahead and pop those in the Q&A, and Lisa is actively answering questions, and I'll definitely be getting to those too. All right, let's go ahead and look at a different board that I've built here. And this board is meant to manage a bugs queue. We know that there's always bugs can be a pretty arduous process in that there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of specifics associated with them. So by using monday.com and managing your bugs queue all within the platform, you're really able to manage the process end to end. This board is very cross-collaborative, so it's able for your developers and your software team to look at their actions and what's assigned to them. But also you can have other people within your team, maybe your customer success team, maybe your sales team, that can go in and be the reporters of these bugs. That way we're all kind of working from one central place rather than having an email here with an issue and then you have to input it into the bugs queue or something like that. It really cuts down on that cross communication and puts everything into one place around bug reporting, bug triaging, and hopefully bug fixing. Okay. Just to kind of start again by level setting on the structure of this board, you can see that I have a few different groups here. I have a new group, which is kind of the idea that new bugs will go into here. Process-wise, bugs will then get reviewed and filtered, where they will move to the filtered group. And then hopefully they'll end up in this fixed group right at the bottom, which is when they are all fixed and kind of, you know, set. I used a person column here to note the reporter. This doesn't have to be somebody within your software team. This could be somebody, as I said, externally, maybe on the customer success team, maybe it's even your users, depending on you know, your workflow, but they're able to go in and report these issues here. Date column to track this submit date so we can have an idea of timing, how we're moving things along and keeping everything really you know, moving forward. And various status columns noting the source of where the bug came from. Again, these are status columns I've customized to make, you know, bespoke labels for my process, a status of where things stand, as well as customer impact. What's really cool about this is that as the reporter, for example, I reported this bug, I can see where things stand. So I don't need to go chase down the developer that's working on it or the team lead. I'm really able to see, okay, it's in progress, and I can even communicate directly with that person within monday.com, which again cuts out those emails, Slack messages, whatever they might be. And lastly, I have an assigned to column where I'm using teams. I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. So the idea of this board is that you really can manage the entire process. Let's go ahead and start at the beginning of this process with reporting. How can we use monday.com to effectively communicate those specific details of a bug? Here I've utilized the update section. So let's take this one as an example. You can see here that by clicking on this speech bubble, I've added an update as the reporter of the bug, given it a very kind of descriptive title, but then taken it a step further by writing a full description of the issue, when it's happening, etc. I've included screenshots via our ability to attach files, as well as like really specific information that maybe, you know, is kind of part of a template or required in order to fix this bug. So the browser type, the account ID, the user ID, whatever it might be for you and your workflow. But using this update section is really an effective way to put all of the communication into one place. The reporter can see who has then seen this update. They're able to see if it has been reviewed by somebody from the software team, or potentially, you know, if this bug might be getting missed somewhere in the mix. As well as we can go ahead and comment back. So let's say, you know, here I'm one of the developers and I'm going to look at this bug and there's something that's really not entirely clear. I can @mention this user back. Can you clarify if the user has tried different browser? And I'm creating this dialogue all within within monday.com. It's it creates very contextual communication. I know which bug we're speaking about very specifically, and we're engaging in this dialogue about it. I can review the files in one place. I can comment back, see if that person has viewed it. It just really kind of packages everything into one exact place. Moving on in our process, let's say, okay, the report is now pretty robust. We know exactly what we need to fix, and now it's time to assign it. We can go ahead and assign it to either a person or to a team. So here I might want to assign it to a particular team lead, but then associate platform B team with this bug, because this is going to be something within their domain that they're going to fix. I don't just have to assign it to one person. I've actually gone into the admin settings of my account and I've created different teams. Platform A team, B team, C team, and an infrastructure team. And that way, when I'm on the bugs queue, I'm able to assign it to a team, increasing that accountability of which of our platform teams or mobile teams or whatever it might be responsible for this bug. Everybody on that team is going to get notified when they are assigned to it. So it's very clear of there's a new bug, you're assigned to it, and this is the team we're going to be holding accountable for fixing it. Okay. Now, kind of moving forward in that process, we go ahead and we review it, and now we want to move it down through these various groups from new to filtered and eventually to fixed. There's a way to do that using our automations that makes this a much less manual process than having to just simply kind of drag and drop items down as they get filtered and maybe kind of forgetting to do that, whatever it might be. Let's take a look at that. So going to our automation center, which is this little robot icon right here, this launches all of our different automation recipes that we have available. And these work really similar to our integrations, a trigger and an action, and all of these bold fields are entirely customizable here. So we're going to use this one, status change. When a status changes to something, move item to group. On that, and I'm able to go ahead and customize each of these underlined fields. The only difference between automations and integrations is that integrations is working with an external software, whereas automations is working within monday.com. So items within Monday moving somewhere else within monday.com. So that's why for right now I'm in my automation center. Back to setting my recipe. When a status changes to something, move item to group. When a status, I have 3 different status columns on the board. Which ones do I want to do? I'm going to choose this one. Changes to add to iteration or to filtered. I'll choose this one, filtered. Move an item to the filtered group. Add it to board. I'm actually going to add in another one to keep my process flowing very seamlessly. When a status changes to fixed, move item to the fixed group. I have 2 of these working in tandem based on that trigger, which is our status change here. So we can see here, I'm going to go ahead and take this one, change the status to filtered, and it's jumped down now into my filtered group. That same bug that I'm tracking here, I'm going to change the status to fixed, and it's jumped down now into my fixed group. All automatically, very easy to keep on top of our bug process and keep things really moving forward. We also can add in some additional communication using automation, particularly notification. So I had on the board that there was a reporter as well as a someone from the software team that's responsible for fixing it. I want to keep up that communication with the reporter in particular. So I can go ahead and set an automation for that. When a column changes, notify someone. When the status changes, notify someone, which could be the reporter. When the status changes, notify the reporter. If I add that to my board, anytime I change this status based on the confines of that automation I just sent, the reporter is going to get a notification. Really keeping all that communication together. Now, let's say we have a bug that is taking a bit of extra legwork and really needs to be added into a specific sprint in order to be fully fixed. I want to create a connection between this board, which is my bugs queue, where they're funneling into, and my iteration or my sprint planning board. How can I do that? Let's go ahead and add in a link to item column, which is going to establish the connection and show the connectivity between where the bug was reported as well as the actual sprint in which the bug is being addressed or fixed. This keeps boards and items linked together, and everybody is really able to stay very organized and on the same page. All right, I'm going to add in a column called the link to item column here. And this column does take a little bit of configuring. So first I need to go ahead and link it to another board. I have many boards in my account and I need to select which board am I linking it to. In my case, I'm linking it to Platform A iteration planning. Allow linking of multiple columns, yes. And now this entire column is linked to this other board. So taking this as an example, when I click here, localization error, UI broken, that might take a little bit longer. And I want to link it to a particular item that's in my iteration I'm working on. I searched for that item in the other board, and I'm going to select it right here. And now I've established a link between this item on the bugs queue as well as this item that is on the iteration. If I need quick reference of that, I can pop out this link and see a full card view of the item in the other board for quick reference. I'm also able to change any of these values right here from this card view without having to click back into the other board and click back into the bugs queue. So I want to bump up this priority to high. I've gone and I've done that here. And now when I go back to my other board, search for it, you can see that the priority is now up to high. Using this link to item column will really kind of keep everything very connected and mapped between the two of them. All right, going to move forward to talking about building a roadmap and how to kind of get that all within monday.com. Any additional questions, please keep putting them in the Q&A. I hope that this is helpful thus far, and we'll keep going. All right, my third board here is a roadmap board. And this board is great because we're able to really show and communicate kind of what's going on, what our software team is working on, and what we have coming up for maybe the next quarter, or maybe a reference point of what was completed in the previous quarter. This board is intended to be for two different audiences. For an internal audience in terms of our own team, really seeing how things are progressing, but also a external facing. So we could even share this with our customers or with other departments in the organization. Again, kind of decreasing that need for all those one-off emails asking when is something coming out or if something is on the roadmap, so on and so forth. So I have just two groups on this board right now, what we're focused on this quarter and what was completed within quarter two. I have a feature status that is showing where things stand. I have an effort column that I've used a rating column to note, and this shows kind of how intense effort it is to get this done. I have a further description of the issue that I've used a long text column to complete here, really showing what we're planning on working on and in a more descriptive sense than just title. Status column showing which plan type this is going to be applicable to, so that way also for quick reference I can see that the CRM integration will only be available to enterprise, whereas this one will be available to all all plan types, as well as an estimated release date. Maybe this is kind of to avoid people asking when is it coming out or something like that, but that's a date column that I've used to note that there. Right, so what's cool on this board is as I mentioned, this board really does have two different audiences. It has our internal audience as well as potentially a use case for an external audience to keep our clients, our investors, our users, whoever it might be, up to date on what we're working on. And what's interesting about this is we might have different information that we want to share internally compared to what we want to be broadcasting out and sharing out to other people. And we can do that all within one board and using a particular view that's called the shared view. So to start, how we do that is we create a new filter on the board. And by using this descending line column, I'm able to filter the board down and include exactly what I want to be available. So let's say, for example, I just want what we're working on this quarter to be available to my external stakeholders, and the rest is okay, but I kind of want to hide two columns. I don't want the effort to be shown externally, and I don't want the expected release to be shown externally because that could lead to a lot of questions. So I've gone ahead and I've deselected those using this little icon to select or deselect columns here. I have a new option at the bottom, save it as a new view of the board. And when I do that, I'm able to go ahead and title this view. So I might say external facing roadmap. And I can toggle between my views. I have my main table view, has all of my information here, both groups available as well as both columns available, or I can very quickly toggle to my external facing roadmap view where I've deleted two columns and I just have one quarter showing. This might be really good for people that are within monday.com, but how do we share it with people that are outside of monday.com? As I mentioned, users, clients, whoever that might be. We have a view that's called the shared view, and it's available currently on all of the table views, but soon we're hoping to launch it to other views as well. When I'm on this external facing view, clicking on the three dots, I can share it, and it basically turns the board into a shareable link. It says right now, can't create the view, but we're going to try it again. Let's try this again. See if it wants to work this time. Share. No. Okay, I do believe we're experiencing a real-time bug. So let's go ahead and see if we can do it just for the main table view for right now. Something I'll definitely surface with my team after this webinar. Looks like we are having an issue currently with the shared view. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. The idea of that view, and again, something we'll address, is that it basically turns the board into a shareable link. So if you go to monday.com/roadmap here, which is what we personally use, this is actually a shared board right here. And it creates, even though I went to monday.com/roadmap, anybody can go to that. It creates this shareable view of the board that can be shared externally. Okay, so that's kind of an idea to manage your roadmap within monday.com and communicate to all stakeholders all within one place. All right. Moving forward, let's talk about communication. As we know, it's really important to maintain very good, transparent communication. And we believe that really all of that can be done and facilitated within monday.com. We definitely have integration for working with those other softwares, including email providers, including Slack, including, kind of some of those great communication tools. There is a way to construct your board and your workflows to establish really strong communication directly from the platform itself, which is super cool. But to start, I wanted to show you a board here, and this is actually something that we utilize internally, which is called the R&D Captain's Logs. It is a board that the main purpose of this is just for very clear, succinct communication to everybody in the organization, understanding what the R&D team is working on, how different software teams are kind of working on their development, some key details associated with what might be released soon, and it kind of creates this central repository for individuals to go and to reference and to check and to stay up to date on all of the new enhancements that are coming out. It acts as just this central database for sort of various announcements and really can foster some great communication. It also can be a reference point. You know, did we release that yet? Or when did that come out? Something like that. And it's a great reference point here. So on this board, I just have one group. It's called Talks. Again, this could be segmented a little bit further if you wanted to make this November talks versus another group might be for October. However you really want to organize your board. For this purpose of example, I just want to have this central one, and all of the different items are different announcements in this case. So a release of link to multiple items, the release of an organization tool integration, a release of a HIPAA compliance, and things like that. I've been using the update section here to put all of the details. So I use the @mention at everybody at Monday, or maybe it's everybody on this board, or even everybody on R&D or Platform A, or whichever team or group you're really communicating to. And then I've gone ahead and I've put the details. So you can now go ahead and do this. This is a little video of kind of what it looks like to show people a real-time example. Additional information, what can this be used for, etc. And I'm able to really see who has gone ahead and who has viewed this, as well as, you know, if there's any kind of communication back and forth. Maybe something as simple as some praise, creating that sense of camaraderie within your organization, or maybe it's a question a user wrote in and about a limitation within the within this release. It creates this central communication hub. Status columns noting who it is released to. And I wanted to add in one additional column that we think is really beneficial, which is the last updated column. This column will show you all of the last updates with a person as well as a timestamp to the column. So that way you can see if this, to the item. So that way you can see if this is current information. If this switched from alpha users to internal, I can now see that this was then just updated by me at this time, at this date. You can check the activity log to see the changes within the item that we used to only release this to our alpha users, whereas now it's out to all internal, or potentially out to all trial accounts, whatever the detail that you're updating here. So it just creates a really kind of centralized communication point to really effectively have your team communicate externally or potentially internally. Okay. Another communication board that we've built here is for an R&D on-call developer's schedule. Not sure if this is kind of relevant for everybody on the call, but for many software teams, there tends to be an on-call developer that might be doing a longer shift or an off shift for any of those really urgent, high priority bugs or issues. This board completely tracks that and manages that. It allows people to have this central point to check who is the on-call developer, as well as some key details about that person, and you know, what's their contact phone number for an emergency, what time zone are they located in using the world clock column, what's their on-call shift date, so on and so forth. This is just something that I've built that really helps, again, foster all communication and transparent info share, all within monday.com itself. One thing I wanted to kind of show you on this board was the ability to, again, tie in those integrations. You can see here that we have a contact phone number, and maybe I have a status column that will note which of our developers is active. This maybe changes every day. So today, Tom is the active on-call developer, but tomorrow it's going to be Molly, and I'm just using the status column to note that for anybody that has an urgent issue needs to check this board. As I switch from null to active, I want to go ahead and notify that particular person. And I'm going to do this using an integration that we have developed with Twilio. I have a phone number column noting that person's phone number. Go to my integrations menu right here. And one of our first apps that we've developed is this integration with Twilio. Twilio is an SMS provider. It sends out a text message, and it can do so based on a change within monday.com. This integration, as of now, flows all from Monday within to Twilio, as in it pushes out an SMS message. And these are the kind of the current recipes that we have. One you'll notice is when a status changes to something, that's the trigger. Send an SMS to someone. And what I can do on this board is customize that so that when the status changes to active, as in you're the active on-call developer, I can send an SMS to that person, just reminding them, including details about their shift. Maybe I'm going to, change Rachita to active. It'll push out that text, and it might say, reminder, you're on from this time to this time for this date, or something like that. So that's taking your workflow to the next level using a really kind of cool integration and increasing that communication for all of your team. All right, the last section, and I know I've been talking for a while here, so I do apologize if we're kind of giving you information overload, but the last section I did just want to touch on is on dashboards. Dashboards is our central reporting hub and tool within monday.com. What dashboards do is they allow you to report from many different boards all within one central place. So in this case, all of these boards sort of had their own scope, right? This was for my iteration planning. This is my bugs queue. They had a singular purpose that keeps everything really organized. Dashboards are able to combine data from multiple boards and show them in different views using a series of widgets. Here's an example dashboard that I have created. You can select who you'd like to share this dashboard with. And I have different widgets here. The first is I have a chart widget where I've tracked all the different statuses of our different bugs. And I can see very quickly in a very kind of visual sense what percentage are fixed, what percentage are waiting for more information, and all of my different statuses. Same here with my, iteration by epic. How much time are we spending on each different epic, and kind of how does that break down? Within the same dashboard, I have my on-call developer schedule, so I'm able to kind of put that into a quick calendar view right here, and I can see each individual on the day that they are assigned to. More key information using the numbers widget, my average time in each current iteration, the client impacts using a battery widget, and lastly, the llama farm, which shows how things are progressing and gives you a cute new green llama when things turn to done. But the overall point of this is using these overall widgets, I was able to kind of create like a bespoke, almost like a report of my monday.com information that I need to see. Maybe you're a software team leader and you really want to track this for your overall team. That's kind of, able to be done using our dashboards, combining information from the board, tracking the on-call schedule to the bugs queue to my iteration work or my sprint planning work. Now, how do you add in these widgets? Very simple. When you open up a new dashboard, you'll have a series of these tiles. You click create new widget. This launches our widget store, and this is where you're able to kind of scroll through our different offerings. For my example here, I primarily used the chart widget as well as the numbers widget, the llama widget, but we have many different widgets, both like really highly functional as well as a little bit more whimsical, like we have a motivation section. But that's kind of the overall structure. Just to show you, one example of how to configure a widget, when you press add to dashboard, you now are launched into the settings menu where you can select which boards would you like to be funneling into this widget. So I want my bugs queue as well as my roadmap and maybe my platform A iteration plan, all to be populating into this chart. What type of chart? I can further customize this: line chart, bar chart, pie chart. I can further customize different labels and values and the different column types I'd like to use. So right now I'm tracking statuses, but maybe I want to track people and the breakdown of how my people are working on different items, whatever that is, it's all kind of possible here based on the column types within those boards. And you can further customize it. Do I want the values ascending, descending, different weighting, things like that. And maybe, I want to include some groups, not all the groups, so on and so forth. It really kind of takes you through a flow of essentially what do you want to include in this widget. When you press done, it's now added to your board. It can be renamed. It also can be further filtered once the widget is on your board. So even though I'm overall seeing this and it ties in a view of my boards below, I can just filter just on all of the, by removing all of the done items. And now I'm seeing everything that's not done, or something like that. I can also search by a person, so statuses that are now associated with a certain person, showing me a new view of my chart. Okay, so there's a lot that can be done on dashboards, just kind of starting by creating those different widgets and then creating a dashboard or various dashboards that might be relevant for you and for your team. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I did just want to thank everybody for their time. If I didn't get to your question, or if Lisa didn't get to your question, please send it in as an email to support@monday.com. Again, we will be sending out this recording, but thank you to everybody for joining. I do hope that this was helpful, and enjoy the rest of your day.